What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Run It Up podcast. I'm your host, Najee, and I got my guy with me, my guy Khalil Baker. How you doing, bro?
I am well, man. It's been a
Mm,
weird day. It's been raining a lot and stuff. I just talked to you about it, but we're cool. We're here. Glad to talk
I'm
some
chilling.
football with you. How you doing?
I'm doing good, bro. I'm chilling. I told you off air, but I said it in the first episode of the new year, trying to be consistent. Went to the gym, got the little Gym Shark shit on. Never once did I buy Gym Shark ever before in my life, but I got one now.
It's that
Um,
time.
it's that time, and then I cooked dinner, feel me? And it was a great,
What'd
it was a
you cook?
great little day. I made so we do HelloFresh, me and Chris, we do HelloFresh. So I cooked it was like an Italian chicken with string beans and like diced potatoes. I'd never diced a potato in my life, so I had to look up how to dice potatoes, but we figured it out. I made a little protein shake. It was hey bro, I'm committed. I'm locked in.
Sounds good.
Thank
Sounds very
you. Thank you.
nutritional.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do you go to the gym, bro? I feel like you definitely go to the gym.
Yeah, I started going to the gym again last summer actually.
Mm.
So I started going in like probably May or like June or something. Probably June. And I was super locked in for a few months. Dropped about 35 pounds or
Good
so.
shit. Good shit.
Dropped about 35 pounds. I've been going still just like not as like super hard, like a super cut like I've been doing, but still cutting a little bit. So
Hmm.
I let it drop another 10 to 15, but I'm not super crazy about it right now. So
I feel
but
you. Oh, and
it's
then
been good.
shout out to Justice, my guy. He couldn't make it today, but he posted his like gym journey on his Instagram story
Mm,
and whatnot. My son is down like 60 pounds or something. So shout
it's
out
been
to my
working.
guy. Yeah, shout out to
He's been
Justice.
working. He just left our gym. We used to go to Planet Fitness. We didn't go together or anything, but he just went to another gym. So I won't be seeing him anymore there.
Yeah, I go to Planet Fitness too. It's just the easiest joint. Like, and I also am not.
$10.
Like I don't know what to do in the gym. So like it's just an easy way for beginners. I go with my friend who like knows what he's doing. So he just
Yeah.
teaches me what to do. So like that's why that kept me away from the gym for the longest time because I was like, yo, people are gonna look at me like this kid knows nothing what he's doing. Why would I go to the gym? But I started going with him and he's like giving me, confidence and shit. So it's cool.
Yeah. I had a yeah, that $10 is hard to pass up
Pass up.
on. I'm a
Come on.
single man, like I don't care about nothing else. $10 is
Yeah,
fine.
$10 is
I,
cool.
I I have a background and all that stuff, so like I'm good to go. But I did have to hire like a coach to get back into it just because I'd been out for so long. And it was just like kind of like the way you looked at it. I didn't want to get back into it just because I don't remember. I just wasn't familiar with some of that stuff,
Hmm.
anymore and getting have a routine. So I just wanted to have some accountability. So it was helpful.
No, for sure. Yeah, my friend does a good job holding we like kind of hold each other accountable and shit. So it's cool. Um, but yeah, that's Najee and Khalil's gym journey 2024, a little journal entry. Um, but yeah, this episode we're gonna talk about recapping last weekend's divisional round games. We're gonna talk about the championship games this weekend. We're gonna talk the Titans, Khalil's team, have hired their head coach. So he's gonna give his thoughts on that. And the Seahawks are one of two remaining teams without a head coach. So I'm gonna give y'all who I think they should hire. And I'm sure we'll get into some tangents within all of that. So make sure you guys subscribe to the pod on YouTube. I believe it's the Run It Up Podcast. Leave a comment, like, follow us on TikTok at the Run It Up Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Run It Up Pod or Run It Up Pod. Not a great host, don't even know the handles, but it's all in the description. You can follow me on Twitter at Najee Adams underscore, Khalil on Twitter at Balil44, and Justice on Twitter at JReed underscore, JReed2, something like that. It'll be in the description as well. Um, Before we get into everything, got to go song of the week, which will, hey, you heard it here first, also be in the description. Mine is a throwback that I've just started listening to for some reason, like a lot again recently. It is Girls Need Love remix by Summer Walker and Drake. It is a
Very nice.
great song. Very incredible song. The Drake verse is immaculate. Summer Walker does her thing. Obviously, it's her song. So, and yeah, I wish you guys could hear it with us, but you can check it out in the description. And
Yeah.
Khalil, who you got?
I think it's between two songs for me, but I'm gonna go with this one for right now. It's this guy, his name is Saint Levant. The
Mm,
song is called Very Few Friends. He speaks like he is English and stuff, but he speaks like French on the song and stuff too. But it's a real cool vibe, interesting song. I like it a lot. So Saint
Beautiful.
Levant, very few friends.
Beautiful. Once again, no clue, but that's literally one of my favorite things is putting the description, like the song in the description and looking it up on YouTube as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's become a routine and I very much so look forward to it. So yeah, that gets all of that out the way. I guess we can just dive right into this weekend's games. I think we both went 3 for 4. I got Chiefs Bills wrong, and you got Lions Bucks wrong. So we both went three
Wait,
for four.
you went 3 for 4?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What do you mean? It
You
was
did?
it was Packers 49ers. I picked 49ers. It was Ravens Texans. I picked Ravens. It
Yeah,
was Bucks Lions. I
that's
picked
what it was.
Lions. And it was Chiefs Bills, and I bet against God's favorite and picked the Bills, and I was wrong.
You're right. You're
But
right. You're right. I
but
was
yeah,
expecting to win. I was just expecting to win, so I'm just
yeah,
that's whatever.
tie game, tie ball game, brother. So, we'll see if we have different picks this week. But so I guess we dive on into it. Ravens, Texans. Ravens win 34-10. It was a different Ravens team coming out at halftime. I got a couple takeaways, but I'm curious to hear what you thought about the game, bro. So, what'd you think?
Man, it was interesting going into it. So I didn't want to bet too much against the Texans, just going off of how that Browns game went. And I was pretty set on the Browns, pretty confident in it. And then seeing how they, played that game and then going up against the Ravens, we knew they were a different team. The Ravens were, as far as caliber and just being more elite on both sides of the football. 10-10, super close at different times. CJ Stroud tried his best to hang in there. Slowick try to call a pretty good game, but the Ravens just have so much. They put you in such a bind on both sides of the football. That defense is pretty special. They got a lot of elite players. They put a lot of pressure on you. They have size. They have speed. Versatility. A great play caller in McDonald. And then you want to look on the offensive end. You got Lamar Jackson doing pretty special things. He was really good in the passing game, maybe not as decisive as you might have wanted him to be in the pocket, but still being pretty calm, being pretty composed that way. Took what the defense gave him. If he had a rush lane, he took that run lane and got some yards with it. He still had some pretty impressive passes, outside the numbers, inside the numbers, and he is who he is. The QB run was instrumental for him that game, and I think it'll be instrumental for him going forward, though, for sure.
Yeah, no, I think basically echoing everything you just said. I think the Texans looked a little bit outmatched in the second half. For the Ravens, for me, it looked like a team and specifically a QB that has been waiting for this moment for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I think Lamar took advantage of that. It's his sixth season in the NFL. Prior to this, he was 1-3 in the playoffs, and a couple of those times he missed the postseason because of injuries. First loss came to Phillip Rivers. Second loss came to Ryan Tannehill. Third loss came to Josh Allen. So, I just felt like he was like, listen, I've been denied a couple of times. I'm not being denied again. I think for CJ, I think the Texans will definitely be back. I just think it's one of those things like he's gotta, like it just wasn't his turn. Like Josh Allen's never won a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's never won a Super Bowl. Lamar's never won a Super Bowl. Justin Herbert's never won a Super Bowl. Trevor
Yeah.
Lawrence never won a Super Bowl. Like he'll have to battle all those guys for the next couple of years. And of course, the king of the AFC, the king of the NFL, Mahomes is also there. So like there's just so many QB battles to get to the top of the mountain there. And I just feel like it wasn't CJ's turn. Lamar, I think he played pretty well. 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and no turnovers, 252 total yards of offense. The Ravens defense pretty much shut down the Texans. Mike McDonald versus Bobby Slowick, my guy. Mike McDonald was an absolute genius. Only Texans TD was on a punt return, so like and they got a field goal. Like they didn't actually score a touchdown in this game, like on the offensive side of the ball. I think the Texans season was a massive success. Like not to take anything away from them, D'Amico Ryans is probably my coach of the year, either him or Stefanski. But it's probably D'Amico for me. I think nobody thought they'd be in the division round. I don't think a lot of people thought they'd even be in the playoffs. But like when teams draft QBs, like this is what they imagine them becoming, like the dream scenario. Everyone's looking for the guy that will like completely change their franchise, alter the trajectory of it. And like the Texans found their guy, the Texans found that for them in TJ Stroud. So I feel like they'll be good moving forward. Like I think the AFC South is going to be a battle for a couple of years to come between Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, it's been highly documented on here. I'm an Anthony Richardson guy. I
Me too.
love me some Anthony Richardson. And then whoever the Titans roll out at QB, Will Levis, maybe a
It's
Malik
nah, it's just Will
Malik Willis
Levis. Stop,
resurgence. You
stop.
never
It's Will
know.
Levis.
So and then Will Levis. So between those four, I think there was some good battles in there. Um, I was curious though, how would you rank the AFC South going into next season?
Into next season.
Yeah,
Into next season, man, I would probably go. That Jags team is so weird right now.
it's
You have
so
talent.
weird. Like they could
So
be really good, but they could also be like, eh, you
yeah,
know.
talent on both sides. They're fast on defense. They can be physical a little bit. I think they're maybe a little undersized, probably. Um, Maybe a little underwhelming. They need to figure out on the defensive end, especially with the coordinator position. That way, offense kind of just weird itself too. Um, I might
Calvin
go.
Ridley's a free agent. Josh
Yeah,
Allen on the defensive end, I think, is a free agent. So
there's a lot that remains to be seen pretty much for every team. Of course, you look at the Colts, you want AR to get healthy. They got some stuff to figure out for a lot of free agents coming up and this year and for next year. Texans have a lot to fill out on their roster themselves, especially going forward. But they got some really good foundational pieces. You got Will Anderson, you got Christian Harris, who's really good. I think Greenard. He's going to be a free agent coming up, but Stingley had a really good year. They probably need to get another corner on the other side with Stingley. Got to get Tank Dell back. Nico Collins, re-signing him, getting him paid. CJ Stroud, obviously, offensive line is a really good place too. I would probably go. I think I'd go with, man, it's hard. I think I go with the
damn, you didn't say
Colts.
nothing about your Titans.
I know. Well, that they're just okay. So I'll talk about the Titans a little bit. They're it's just so much. A new head coach and Brian Callahan, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Offensive line isn't very good. Quarterback situation still remains to be seen, but I feel pretty good about Will Levis and think he did a lot of things. The offense looked completely different when you had Will Levis in there compared to any other quarterback that was on the roster. He's very aggressive. I think they did a really good job of kind of helping him balance it a little bit. But the offense was much better with him in. Probably won't bring back Derrick Henry, but Tajay Spears looks pretty primed to come in and carry a bigger load of the offense. Receiver room is skeptical a little bit. You got an aging DeAndre Hopkins, Trey Burks can't stay healthy. We have the seventh pick in the draft. Don't know what we're gonna do with it. We just got Brian Callahan. So do we get a receiver in free agency? People talk about T. Higgins. Mike Evans is out there. People talk about him a lot. Did we get a receiver in the draft? Did we go offensive lineman? Defense has some really good bright spots, but there's a lot to figure out with this Titans team as far as the coaching staff, the roster spots, what moves do we make. So I'm gonna go with, just to be realistic, I'm gonna go with the Colts, Texans, Jags, Titans right now.
Colts, Texans, Jags, Titans. I like that. I think for me, I probably go just because we've seen it with the Texans. I probably go Texans, Colts, because I really do think Anthony Richardson is a game changer. Like I think
Yeah,
Gardner Minshew did a great job. He came in, he filled in. They were a win away from the playoffs, but I just think Anthony Richardson changes that franchise in the same way that Stroud changed the Texans.
yeah.
And so I think I'd probably go Texans, Colts, Jags, Titans, and like I don't love the Jags. I might put them last. Like
I,
I'm not a Trevor Lawrence guy. The thing is, there's just so many like question marks for the Titans for me. Like and so like at least we know what the Jags look like for the most part. Obviously, like I said, like Calvin Ridley may or may not come back. They've already kind of hinted towards franchise tagging Josh Allen on the defensive end, but like I think my top two are definitely Texans Colts, but I think that's gonna be a fire division. Like
yeah.
those four QBs battling it out is gonna be a fun division for years to come. So
Yeah, AR, real quick, AR. I think that Colts team would have been a lot better with AR in there. Obviously,
100%.
people talked about him being super raw. That's whatever. We talked about him a little bit throughout, the pod and just on Twitter and whatever else. But I think he's a lot more polished than people think coming in. Of course, he's inconsistent. There's a lot to work on. But you saw it when he was playing. Some pretty special throws, a very special arm. Can throw from all types of different angles, and really put a lot of pressure on the defense on both sides that way with running the ball and passing the ball. And you have Steichen over there, who was a great play caller this year, and having JT finally come back. That offensive line defense was also surprisingly pretty good too. You got two really good linebackers on that end, Buckner, all that other type of stuff. So I like the Colts going forward. I think they're with the QB. I think they're in a better spot than the Texans as of right now. And just going off what you said, the Titans just have so many question marks. I have a Titan shirt on right now, by the way. But the Titans just
No,
have
I saw. Oh, I saw.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
made me ask you.
They have so many question marks right now, and I just can't put them over. I can't put them at 3, just because there's a lot to figure out. So the answer is probably going to be different in a few weeks, and as a Titans fan, I hope it's different in a few weeks. But I have them at 4 just for that reason, pretty much.
Yeah, I think just to touch on Anthony Richardson one last time, the Colts were 2-2 when he's 2-2 in his career. In those 4 games, one of which he missed like with injury, really 3.5 games. He had 7 total touchdowns and 1 interception. So like he was playing really, really good. Like had he played the entire season, there's a decent chance he could have really challenged CJ Stroud for that offensive rookie of the year. And so I just think, and the problem is like there were already a lot of question marks with him coming into the year. He struggled with injury at Florida, comes into the NFL, struggles with injury at Indianapolis, and so I think those same question marks. I think he relieved the worries of a couple of people, but like a lot of those same question marks still stand because like can he is his superpower is his ability to rush, his height, his stature compared to other quarterbacks. But like if you can't stay healthy, that doesn't really matter. So like I think moving forward we'll see kind of what Anthony Richardson turns into, but I think he's going to be an absolute superstar. So we'll see moving forward. I love that this has turned into an Anthony Richardson pod. I'll take it. Moving on to the next game, 49ers versus Packers. We both picked the 49ers, and the 49ers did win 24-21. I will say, I feel a lot. Hey, if I was the Lion, I'd feel pretty good coming into this game. I think the 49ers showed like a good amount of like they're not invincible. They're not invincible whatsoever. And granted, like the weather wasn't great. Brock Purdy was struggling to throw. They were without Deebo Samuel for the large majority of it. Christian McCaffrey put them on his back. And the Packers put up way more of a fight than I thought they would. Brock Purdy was fine. TMC was insanely good. Jordan Love looked great in every drive except the last drive, the one that mattered the most. But then again, like he's a first-year starter on the youngest team in football. So like I think for what the expectations were, he blew them out of the water. I think that if whatever you thought about Jordan Love coming into the game, I don't think he did anything to make you think any less of him. And I don't think he did anything to make you think that much more of him, So like I think your opinion of Jordan Love pretty much stays the same. Granted, he did kind of cook against a really good 49ers defense. So, maybe you boost him up a little bit, but I definitely don't think that end of game pick kills his legacy by any means. I do want to give a shout out to Matt LaFleur because he is just an offensive mastermind, in my opinion. Coming into the season, I think everyone thought the Packers' biggest weakness on the offensive end, maybe on the entire team, was that they didn't have a number one guy at receiver. A lot of people thought Christian Watson might be that guy. He's not, whether it be his inability to, high point a deep ball or, just his inability to stay healthy for whatever reason.
Personally, I think it's the health, by the way. I think it's the health.
Yeah. He's just not able to stay healthy for a lot of time, for a prolonged period of time. And so they've had to, look other places. And I think he turned their biggest weakness into one of their biggest strengths, and that like anyone can go off at any given time. I think I heard on the broadcast they had like a different leading receiver in every month of the season, which is pretty crazy, between Jaden Reed, Dontavion Wicks, Romeo Dobbs, Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Christian Watson. Like all those guys are playmakers, and all those guys like have a role on that offense. And then you got Bo Melton, shout out Seahawks 6th round draft pick Bo Melton, who is now a Packer, whatever. But yeah, like I just think they have a lot of talent, and Matt LaFleur wasn't necessarily able to cook with Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers has a lot of say in what the play calls are, especially when he gets to the line of scrimmage and changes the entire play. But now that he's got a little bit more control over the offense with a first year starter in Jordan Love, I think we really got to see him cook. And the Packers had a great season, and I think they're going to be really good for over the next couple of years.
That pick was the worst thing I've ever seen in my
I
life.
think he just shit his pants, to be honest. Like I just think he lost it. Like he was just the pressure of the entire season completely crumbled him. Which is
Yeah.
fine. Like that's okay. I just don't think that he like if he could have it back, I'm sure he would.
Well, yeah, of course.
But
It was just egregious, man.
it was
And
insane.
like that's
Triple
just
coverage or whatever.
like I think going to his right, full sprint. You got, I think, Watson going to his right, full sprint, and him throwing across his body, across the field. Not an easy throw whatsoever. Just
And it wasn't like
it,
fourth down, right? Like it was like second or third down. Like
it might have been first or second.
yeah,
Like it was
yeah,
like
like they had
with
another down, a couple downs to go.
with 50 seconds left. Like there was 50 seconds left when the play was like snapped. Like there was
And they
plenty of
only needed a
time
field goal.
just to throw it away. Plenty of time, and he throws that. And I don't know. It was just that was a really stupid play from a player who hasn't played very stupid. In the past few weeks, past couple months, and so. But he's been really good. It was disappointing to see it in that way. But it happens, and a young player uh, in a huge moment, and still be something to learn from. Going with the 49ers a little bit. Brock Purdy struggled a lot during that game. For most of the game, he had some really bright spot. He had some bright moments where he looked like the typical Brock Purdy we've seen all season. Quick processor, throws in anticipation. Has command of the offense, can really rip it a few times, especially over the middle of the field where like in a lot of traffic. And we still saw it at different times, but for the most part, he didn't have a lot of control of the ball. Weather conditions played a huge part in that. He just wasn't as confident as he usually is. And I think the rust played a big part on him. I think it played a big part on the team, but like mostly him. Like he just wasn't seeing the field as good as he usually does. And again, with the weather, just wasn't as confident in those throws. So if you're not seeing the field, if you don't have confidence in your control of the football, it's just not going to be there as much. So he struggled a lot, but even on that last drive, kind of putting things together, taking his team down the field, getting a CMC touchdown there was pretty huge for them too, and Abe was able to help solidify victory that way. But they did. You did see some holes on that team. A Packers offense that has been rolling, especially getting Aaron Jones back, finding some stuff to receivers. You see some holes in that defense, and not being the same defense, not being able to generate a pass rush as good as you think they should be able to. So they're in an interesting spot going forward. Looking at that team, they were lucky to pull out that victory. Packers had plenty of chances, plenty of opportunities. Drop picks, just dumb plays here and there, penalties, whatever it was. Plenty of opportunities, but could never really turn that corner and really turn things around and give themselves a chance for a victory. And 49ers gave them tons of chances. Even with that halftime thing with the clock management from
I think they were scared to death to
that
let
was
the Packers get the ball back.
I was so dumbfounded on Twitter. Like I just kept tweeting about it. Like I was texting the group message about it. I was like tweeting my just like for my profile about it. I was tweeting other people. Like I was just so it was so funny to me. Like he took so much time off the clock. They weren't really in a rush at all. They did not want to give the ball back to the Packers. They knew they were getting ball back at half. They wanted to settle for 3 points. They finally got in position to get those 3 points. He missed a field goal, and then they go for 3 and out when they get the ball back at half. Like, it's just so funny to me. And I don't think the football gods were with him at that moment, like for poor clock management, poor decision making. And I just think most of the time when you're in those situations, you want to play to win. But he also didn't trust his offense at the moment. Brock Purdy was still getting settled in, so you can kind of understand that way. I just don't think that was the smartest, decision by him. And fortunately, they come back to haunt him. He's thankful for that, I'm sure. But it's just really funny to me.
Yeah, no, I think that game was a little bit weird. Like
Yeah.
I feel like we don't often see crazy upsets, but that would have been a pretty crazy
Yeah.
upset. And we were so close to and like I don't know. I remember watching the game thinking like, damn, like should the Packers just let them score? But like then again, like do you trust your offense to come down and get it? I don't think they ended up letting them score. I think TMC was just like, no, 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 I'm getting the touchdown. And they
Yeah.
not there wasn't really anything they could do about it. But I don't know. It was a pretty insane game. It was super exciting, action packed. I think it was a way better game than a lot of people thought. I said if any game was going to be a blowout, it was going to be this one. Clearly, I was wrong. It ended up being Ravens-Texans. But yeah, it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, then they
Um,
fired DC. So
yeah,
Packers
yeah,
fans are pretty
yeah.
stoked
They
about
got him
it.
out of there. They got him
Got
out
him
of
out of
there.
there. So that'll be interesting to see who they bring in for that. There's a few teams out there who need a DC now at this point, so that'll be interesting.
I
Not a
think
lot
it
of
like
guys in the
the
market either. So
maybe someone will hire Bill Belichick as their DC.
well,
Maybe
there's guys.
someone will
Yeah,
hire Mike Vrabel as their
of,
DC.
of course there's guys in the market, but yeah, there. I think I was on Twitter right before we started. I think Nico Elite Takes. He just posted a picture of Mike McDaniel and Bill Belichick, and he was like, "Walk with me." And he's just insinuating that the Dolphins should bring in Bill Belichick to be the DC probably for a year.
Come on, stop
Yeah,
it,
just a
stop it,
rental. That'd
stop it, stop it,
be
stop
wild.
it.
That'd
No, I
be
feel like a
that'd be
lot
wild.
of teams need DCs or firing DCs just because like the league is so offense heavy right now, and
Yeah,
like everyone's looking for that new offensive mastermind, that Mike McDaniel, that Matt LaFleur, that Kyle Shanahan, that Ben Johnson vibe. So I think we'll see. I think a lot of people need a little DC magic. So um moving on to Lions Bucks. Lions win 31-23. Um I'll let you start with this one because this was kind of a weird game to me. Like, and I don't even know exactly why, but it was just giving kind of weird vibes. Like Baker Mayfield looked pretty damn good. Mike Evans was, absolutely cooking Cam Sutton. Um, and Jared Goff and the Lions kind of started a little bit slow, but then their offense started clicking. Jameer Gibbs was amazing. Amon-Ra St. Brown did what he needed to do, and the Lions are going to the NFC Chip. But what did you think of the game?
yeah. I was pretty dumb to pick the Bucks last week.
Hey, it's all right. At least you didn't pick against the greatest player of all time.
Yeah. I don't know what you did there. I don't know why you're doing that.
Hey,
It's
might do
fine.
it again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I went into the podcast and I was gonna pick the Lions to beat the Bucks, and then you started talking. I started thinking. I was like, man, I think the Bucks really match up with the Lions here. I even had Baker Mayfield as a better ranked right ahead of Jared Goff coming in as like on a QB rankings that we did a week or so ago.
Mhm.
Like I think it makes sense. They're rolling right now. Both teams are playing pretty well. That Lions defense, just I don't know if they can actually stop that Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and offense. Offensive line is pretty good too. I talked myself into that, and it bit me in the butt. Jared Goff played extremely well. He looked really good. Had some beautiful throws. Some really impressive throws as far as like driving the ball down the field. In some tight windows, playing with some anticipation that way, and just putting a lot of pressure on the defense, and especially in the passing game. You talked about Jameer Gibbs. He is a special player, a special talent. So the more you can get in the ball, the better it is that way. I underestimated that offensive line for the Lions for sure. I was really talking about the Bucks defensive line, but that offensive line for the Lions, um, they don't have a lot of trouble with very many teams, and we really saw that. Via Vea, players are going to win every now and then. You got Via Vea over there; they're going to win every now and then. But that Lions Offensive line really holds themselves well. And even on the defensive end, Aaron Hutchinson, he's a special player that way. It's been pretty huge for him all season, with pressures, being consistent, being a game changer that way. So the Lions, Ben Johnson he called a heck of a game. He will be getting, I think he'll be getting a head coaching position pretty soon. Always putting them in good positions, really changing around Jared Goff and, that mindset and his play style and really putting, faith in him and belief in him. Bucks they had a great season. Their offensive coordinator just got hired, for the Panthers, so really good hire there for them. But he really did a great job at Baker Mayfield. He played very well. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But it was a weird matchup, and I was wrong with it. I admit that. But it got a little bit closer at the end there. But Lions were able to pull it out.
Yeah, I think the Lions did really well. I think the Bucks surprised me a little bit. I didn't expect them to put up as much of a fight as they did, even though they matched up relatively well. Um, I was very proud of Baker. Hopefully he gets the bag in the offseason. Um, I don't know how much though, like their OC just got hired. Mike Evans might also be gone. So like I think there's a lot that probably goes into that decision for the Bucks. Like what does Baker Mayfield look like with when Dave Canales isn't calling the shots? What does Baker Mayfield look like if Mike Evans is not down there to moss people? So I think that'll be a very interesting decision for them. I do think he's played himself into being a starter somewhere. And when you look at teams around the league, like not a ton of teams need a QB that bad right now, like that aren't going to be able to address the need in the draft. I feel like I feel like the Bucks are a good spot for him to land. Like he's had a lot of success there in this year. I remember coming into the season, people were like, no. Kyle Trask is going to win the job.
Oh
And,
gosh.
Baker Mayfield won the job and held it for the entirety of the year. They were in the divisional round, a touchdown away from the NFC championship. Like that's massive considering what people thought coming into the year. And I think that's been like a big theme in this postseason, like really reevaluating, maybe the thought process that we take coming into the season, because the Texans, nobody thought they were going to be good. They're amazing. The Bucks, no one thought they were going to be good. They were really good. Even to some extent, the Lions. I think a lot of people were higher on the Lions. I don't know if people thought the Lions were NFC chip good. So, I just think that a lot of teams kind of outplayed, even maybe the Browns. Like I think a lot of teams outplayed their, projections and their expectations. And so yeah, I'm curious to see what Baker Mayfield gets this year. I think I had seen on Twitter like someone was talking about like 25 mil a year, like 3 years, 75 mil, something like that. Um, which I think is fine for Baker. He is 28. So like it's not like he's this young buck anymore. He is a bit of a journeyman, like Browns,
Mm.
Rams, Panthers, and now Bucks. So I don't think he wants to go to a fifth team. And I think it makes sense for the Bucks to, try and build on the success you had this year. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Baker in the offseason. But that brings us to our very last divisional game, the most heartbreaking game I've watched this year. Chiefs, Bills. Chiefs win 27-24. I picked the Bills to win. I firmly believe the Bills should have won, but it's
Why?
just impossible to beat this guy.
Why do
It's
you
just
think that?
impossible because Tyler Bass should do his job. Like, come on, at least tie the game. If Pat Mahomes comes down in a minute, 3 seconds, and
Yeah, they were
hands
getting
it,
the ball back.
they were getting the ball back. They definitely were. But we had to. I'm not saying we. I ain't no Bills fan, but I'm just saying. I'm a Josh Allen guy. So I was heartbreaking. My heart aches for him because he did all he could. Like there was nothing more he could have done. Except maybe hit Khalil Shakir on that pass that everyone's so angry he didn't throw it to 3 receptions for 21 yards. Stefon Diggs, but or maybe if he would have called the deep pass, we wouldn't be in the situation. I just don't think it was Josh Allen's fault. All I'm saying.
He got hit while throwing that to Shakir
He
down the
did.
field, though. He got hit while he's throwing it because it was there. It was like obviously there. If you just look at the film,
His
um,
tackle got driven back.
yeah,
So,
what do you want him to do right
yeah,
there?
yeah.
Like the throw's there. He read it perfectly. Like he was aggressive. He got an alert, made the throw, and he got hit while he threw it. Like it just happens. It's like you can't dock the guy for that one. I don't think.
Neither. I think it's very easy to play screenshot QB when you, like, cool. Diggs was open in the flat for 8 yards. Nice. When there's a guy wide open in the end zone, like, I'm taking that shot every time. If Josh Allen moves to 0-3 versus Mahomes in his 6 seasons as a starter, he is 5-5 in the playoffs now. 3 of those losses are to Pat Mahomes. One is to Deshaun Watson, crazy, and the other is to Joe Burrow. I think the battle lived up to expectations. It was neither Mahomes nor Allen turned the ball over. Josh Allen rushed for 2. He threw an absolute missile to Khalil Shakir in the end zone. Mahomes threw for 215 and 2 TDs, both to Travis Kelce, and I believe Isaiah Pacheco rushed for a touchdown. 6 straight AFC Championship games for Mahomes, which is absolutely insane. He's 13-3, still never lost in the divisional or wild card round of the playoffs. He's 1 win away from tying Peyton Manning and Steve Young for 3rd most playoff wins of all time. He has the most playoff wins by any QB before turning 30. I think we talk about him possibly being the GOAT all the time, but like it's he's like it's like a legitimate track. Like it's not a crazy thing to say that like by the end of his career he could be the greatest. He could overtake Tom Brady for greatest player of all time. Like he's won 2 Super Bowls in 6 seasons starting. If he wins this year, he'll be 3 for 7, and he's what 28 years old. If he wins the Super Bowl, that'll be 15 playoff wins. I think Joe Montana has 16. Tom Brady is like 33 or something. So like he's got a long way to go before he gets there. But like he'd be 1 away from Joe Montana in his 6th season. Like that's crazy. I do feel really bad for Josh Allen's legacy. Like it's like when you look back on these years, you think like, wow, Josh Allen's probably one of the best, like talent-wise quarterbacks we've seen play the position. And it sucks because the guy that he has to run into is just the best one we've ever seen. So, like, in any other scenario, Josh Allen would be the best guy on the field, except for the one that matters the most. And so when you look back on these Josh Allen games, you think back to that 13-second game, like he played outrageously good and nobody cares. The only thing people think about that game is Mahomes 13 seconds, boom, Josh Allen got dropped, didn't get the ball back. He was immaculate in that game. He was immaculate in this game. Will not be remembered. Like it will just be remembered that he went up against Mahomes and couldn't get it done, which sucks because he deserves a Super Bowl, man. Like he's good. He does so many good things on a football field, and sometimes it's just not rewarded. The Chiefs tried to give the game away. McCole Hardman running end arounds, getting touchbacks. The Bills just couldn't take it advantage. Stefon Diggs, disappearing act. He's played 9 playoff games as a Bill. He is over 100 yards in 3 of them. I know a lot of people kind of like to blow it out of proportion, like he never shows up. He's got 300 plus receiving yard games as a Buffalo Bill. The thing is, he's also got 4 games of 52 yards or less. 3 under 40. So like I just feel like the floor and ceiling fluctuates so much with him. Like the ceiling is outrageously high. Like he can be the best receiver in football for a given stretch, like he was for like the first 4, 5, 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
But the floor is just also like giving me 3 for 21 in an elimination game, dropping what was the biggest play of the game, possibly letting it go right through your hands. It just can't happen, And so like he didn't have 100-yard receiving game since week 6. Like there's been a lot of chatter about trading him. The last 2 big name wide receivers that got traded, Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, they both got traded mid-March. Because they were on the back end of their contracts. The Chiefs and Packers did not want to pay them. That is not the case here. Stefon Diggs signed a 4-year, $96 million deal for the start of the 2022 season. So, like, the Bills still owe him a significant amount of money. If they tried to pay him, trade him pre-June 1st, they'd inherit a dead cap of $31 million. And they're already going to be $43 million over the cap. So like, that's just not happening. Like they're not trading or cutting him before June 1st. Not happening. Impossible. They would be in financial hell. If they traded him post June 1st, they would save 19 million towards the cap. But like in June, you don't really see a lot of NFL players get traded. Like most NFL rosters are already set. Big time players typically don't get traded in June. I personally believe he will be a Buffalo Bill next season. Gabe Davis will be a free agent. The Bills need all the wide receiver help they can get if they bring back Stefon Diggs and Khalil Shakir. Um, it doesn't really make sense for them to trade Stefon Diggs because they won't be able to find a player to replace that production anywhere in June. Like it's just not happening. So I just think he will be a Buffalo Bill. That's also why I feel like Devontae Adams will be a Raider because the cap hit situation. The thing with Devontae Adams is like it does just make a lot of sense. Like him going to the Jets.
Yeah.
The Raiders are kind of, in a little bit of a rebuild. So it makes sense. That makes way more sense to me than Stefon Diggs going where the Cowboys to go play with his brother and be wide receiver 2 to CeeDee Lamb. Like I just don't see it happening. So I think Stefon Diggs would be a Buffalo Bill. But yeah, that was really my takeaway. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I don't really know why they would trade him. At this point with their roster construction, you talked about it. They need all the receiver help they can get. I don't know why you would trade him if you don't have any insurance for the production and the value you lose. Getting rid of him that way. You already talked about Gabe Davis. Leaving, probably leaving after the season, being a free agent. So they're in a weird spot. They definitely do need to prioritize getting Josh Allen some more weapons. They've been at that point for a while now. We've seen it. They've started to incorporate more, aspects of their offense. Having Dalton Kincaid there. Dawson Knox coming back, seeing him really utilizing the running back position, especially with Dalvin, or not Dalvin Cook, but James Cook, really stepping up his game and elevating himself this season. Had a really great season. I think he was sixth in all-purpose yards, all scrimmage yards. So like seeing that, seeing the other elements of their team, they're still a receiver away, another receiver away, another weapon away from really, putting themselves over the top and really giving Josh Allen the consistent help and support that he needs. Because we've always seen at this point, like he has pretty much always been the offense. Hasn't always had a running game to rely on. Always having a lot of pressure. So even at different points where he had all that pressure, felt all that pressure, we kind of saw him, make he's kind of overcompensate, I guess you could say. Make a lot of stupid plays, turn over the ball, trying a little bit too hard, forcing things. And we've seen a lot of players do that. So I don't think it's crazy to see Josh Allen, kind of take it upon himself, to kind of, right the ship and, overcompensate and get his team to a victory. But I just don't know why they would trade him. There's some other stuff they need to do, with the roster, of course, but they need to look at all options there. I think Sean McDermott needs to come back, of course, but they got to figure out the OC spot for sure. I don't know if you bring back a Joe Brady. The offense was fine with him, of course, but I also think they need to maybe open up that position and just look at some other places to really see what they can do with it and give Josh Allen, a really good play caller that can utilize all avenues of that offense. Just going real quick to Mahomes and Allen, man, two of the most top like special quarterbacks we have in this league right now. I think the two top quarterbacks for sure, who do so much for their offense, do so much for their teams, and we saw a great game there. I called the Chiefs winning that game. Not often will you see me ever really bet against Mahomes. I've kind of mostly learned my lesson that way. But you just knew this was going to be a classic going into it, and that's kind of what we got right there. Mahomes and that offense look completely different from what we've seen before, but they've really kind of found their stride that way. And then the defense has been pretty good too, especially on the back end with a lot of those guys stepping up their game. A lot of all pros on that team, and the Chiefs have done a great job, surrounding Mahomes outside of the receiver position. So,
Yeah. I I kind of already said all my Josh Allen plotter bullshit. I just really like the guy. Hopefully he can, get over the hump, get past Mahomes. I think the Bills have a very interesting offseason coming up. Kind of like you said, I don't really know in what direction they go. Like you kind of are like you have to try and compete because you have a top three quarterback in the NFL. You have a good receiver. You have a decent defense. Like they should be better than they are year over year. But like I guess we'll see what changes are made. I don't think they have a lot of avenues to improve as drastically as people would like, but hopefully they come into next season ready to, really go on a run and not start the year so, like iffy, losing the turnovers, losing games they should win. That week 1 loss to the Jets, like that kind of summarizes the Bills season in a nutshell. Like you do everything that you should do to win the game, and a mistake here, a mistake there ends up costing it for you. A big play here, a big play there, and like honestly, I completely forgot that they lost that game, but like it makes so much sense now. Like that Bills team that we saw in week 1 lose to Xavier Gibson punt returns is the Bills team that we saw lose in this game. Like they just can't get out of their own way sometimes, and hopefully, they can correct that coming into next season. Before we dive into this weekend's games, I do want to talk to you about the Titans' new head coach.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so I'm gonna just throw you the lob and you take it from here. So the Tennessee Titans have hired Brian Callahan to be their new head coach. He's the former offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. He is cited for and given a decent amount of credit in the development of Joe Burrow and Peyton Manning and Matthew Stafford. So that bodes pretty well for Will Levis moving forward. He didn't call the plays in Cincinnati because Zach Taylor did, but I think he worked hand in hand with Zach Taylor, and he has already come out and said that he will be the one calling the plays in Tennessee. So,
Yeah.
that'll be a great, adjustment for him. He's 39 years old. He's the 6th youngest head coach in the NFL. The Titans have the 7th overall pick, and they have the 2nd most cap space in the NFL going into the offseason. A lot of change coming for Tennessee. How do you feel about the
Yeah.
hire, bro?
I feel pretty good about it. I had a few coaches that I really liked going into it. Of course, Slowick was one of those that we've talked about before. Of course, especially after that Texans-Browns game, everyone was kind of pretty high on him after that. Of course, since then, things have kind of died down, so it's interesting to see what happens with Slowick. Another guy I really liked was McDonald. Of course, he does special things on the defensive end. I wanted to go in an offensive direction, but when you got a guy that can, that's a coordinator as special as McDonald has been, for the Ravens, how can you not want him to be the head coach of your team in that way? And obviously, I think he can even bring in and make a pretty good coaching staff and put it together. And then Callahan was also the third coach that I really liked going into it. Coming over from Cincinnati, we have a history at Cincinnati. I don't really like Cincinnati a whole bunch. I actually went to the playoff game. We played against them 3 years ago or so. Wasn't a great experience. We lost. We sacked Joe Burrow 9 times and still
Hmm.
lost the game somehow. Ryan Tannehill threw like 3 interceptions, so it was tough. Um, you know, Even beside the point though, I think Brian Callahan, he has a very extensive coaching history, coaching background. Obviously, not just with his father, but just being in different places. Being around a lot of different quarterbacks, a lot of different systems, having some diversity that way. Even being in Denver, starting off with like a Tim Tebow, having that option, that QB run system. Having to challenge himself, the whole coaching staff having to challenge themselves and really cater to Tim Tebow's strengths. And we know how that went. Tim Tebow had a huge victory for the Broncos against the Steelers team in overtime. That was a really fun year for them. And then obviously having Peyton Manning, Matthew Stafford, just a lot of different guys, but a lot of different impressive guys in different ways. We all know who Peyton Manning is. Matthew Stafford being one of the most talented quarterbacks we've ever seen. So having a guy like that with that history, that experience, having the coaching background, hopefully having his father come coach with him too, having that support is huge, especially when you have a young quarterback, second-year quarterback going to be Will Levis, who needs some of that development, needs some of that consistency. So having a Brian Callahan to call plays for him, but to also just be that support system that he'll need, because he's been around so many great quarterbacks himself, even growing up, idolizing a Drew Brees and learning from him too. So I listened to an interview that he talked about. He just believes in consistency in his approach, being intense if he needs to, but also being a coach who can adapt and put his guys in positions to succeed. So not a guy that's just going to have this system and run his system no matter what type of players he has, but he's always going to try to adapt. He's always going to put his guys first, kind of be a player's coach that way and put them in positions to succeed, for whatever they need that way too. So I think that's kind of what we saw during his time in, Cincinnati, having that offense change the way it needed to, catering to Joe Burrow, catering to their needs, maybe not always being as great in the run game or as great on the offensive line. So how do we put, this guy, Joe Burrow, how do we help him succeed? How do we utilize our weapons on the outside? How do we get a Joe Mixon back into the game? How do we use a Chase Brown? So even being an instrumental part of that offense, we saw that from Brian Callahan. So I think it's a huge step for Tennessee Titans. Rand Carthon being the GM and even getting a promotion not too long ago. You kind of see the vision he has, maybe being a little bit more modern than what we saw with a Mike Vrabel. So I think we're heading in an interesting direction. Of course, having a top 10 pick, seventh pick in the draft will be huge for us to see what we do with that. We have quite a few needs on each side of the ball. The biggest two needs would be a receiver and an offensive lineman. I always draw back to this comparison, having a Callahan come over from Cincy, but they had that choice that one year where it's between Sewell and Chase, and they ended up going with Chase and just going with free agency as far as bringing in offensive linemen. So I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if that influences the decision. Of course, there's some receivers out there we could get in free agency, so you have to see what that looks like as far as the best opportunity for us, how the draft board will fall. But I feel really good about the future so far. I think we hired a really good coach with a great background, a great support system. So I know I put them fourth when we ranked the AFC South teams, but I think as the weeks come along here, they might, go up in the rankings to as high as 3, right above the Jaguars.
Beautiful. Yeah, I like the hire for you guys too. And I think like something big that might not be talked about as much as like I think not that Brian Callahan had like the pick of whatever job he wanted, but like him taking the Titans job shows that, I think he really does believe in Will Levis. And, like having been around so many good quarterbacks, like to tie himself to Will Levis, like says something, like he believes that like he can be successful and that he can get the best out of him. And I think that's big because there were and still are a lot of question marks with Will Levis. And so like for Brian Callahan to have worked with so many probably Hall of Fame. That's 3 Hall of Fame guys, probably. And obviously, it's early in Joe Burrow's career, but like, let's just say he continues to
Yeah.
go on this trajectory. Like, 3 really good guys, and like, obviously, that's not the only 3 guys he's worked with, but like the biggest 3 names. So to see that and Will Levis and be able to feel like he can get that something of that caliber out of him is big, and I think it'll be big for his development. So I think that's a good hire out of y'all. The only 2 teams left without a head coach are my team, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Washington Commanders, because the Panthers hired Dave Canales, the Bucs offensive coordinator, former Seahawks QB coach, to be their head coach today. And the Falcons hired Raheem Morris. I believe he is the Rams DC or was the Rams DC. So Bill Belichick will probably be out of a job for this upcoming year, or at least a coaching job this upcoming year, which is pretty crazy. For me, I think my number 1 hire for the Seahawks would be Ben Johnson, but I feel like that is, I think he was everyone's number 1 hire, between us and the Commanders. I think he would have a job right now had the Lions lost last weekend. I think he'd have a job. I think he'll get a head coaching job shortly after the Lions do lose, whenever that may be. Between
Yeah,
us and
he
the
he didn't even want
oh,
to. I don't even think he wanted to take a interview with Titans.
no,
Just
I think
started to
he's
interrupt. Like,
locked.
yeah,
He's
like
locked
he
in.
he did not even take an interview with us, man. Like
Yeah.
I think he interviewed with like maybe the Falcons and the Panthers or something on a Saturday. Some teams, some Saturday, and we had requested an interview, and I just never heard anything else about it. So like I don't think
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to interview with the Titans. It was really funny.
No, he
So I even
interviewed.
list them in like my top 3 just because
No,
he
no,
didn't
no.
want
I don't
anything.
blame you. He did a first interview with us, but I don't think we've asked him for or if to my knowledge, we haven't done a second one with him or Bobby Slowick. So you know, um, I think between us and the Commanders, it's going to be a bit of a battle. Adam Peters, the former 49ers assistant GM, now the Commanders, current GM, and him have a pretty decent relationship. And I think a lot of people just think it's a foregone conclusion he will be a Commander because he can kind of build an offense from scratch. Him and Bieniemy is also a crazy combo. I think that's going to be a really good combo there in Washington if he does go there. And then like they have the number 2 pick. He will probably have his pick of either, Caleb Williams or Drake May. One of them will fall to 2 because you can't take both of them at one. And so like being able to take a quarterback and build an offense around that quarterback from scratch, I think is very appealing. But again, they are the Commanders. You are going into a pretty tough division. Not that the NFC West isn't tough, but like we have built. I want to say we've built a better culture. Um, I think we're probably a little bit further along than the Commanders are team building wise. Like there's a lot more to work with when you come to the Seahawks than there is the Commanders. So I think there's pros and cons to each. Um, but like I would love to have Ben Johnson. You see what he's done with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he gets stuff out of Josh Reynolds, and he's made Sam Laporta one of the best rookie tight end seasons we've ever seen. He's gotten super incredible production out of both David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And when you look at the Seahawks offense, like we have DK Metcalf in place. We have Jackson Smith and Jigba. We have Tyler Lockett. Like Geno Smith to Jared Goff, the talent gap isn't that big if there is one at all. We have 2 running backs in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet that we would love to get great production out of. And so like I think Ben Johnson can come over and import some of the same like strategies and schemes that he's implemented in Detroit and bring that to Seattle. And so I would love to have Ben Johnson as our head coach. I think like the thing is he hasn't been an offensive coordinator for too long, and so like the experience thing is a little bit of a con in that scenario, but like I'm willing to take a chance. Like I'd rather take a chance on a Ben Johnson and be wrong than take a chance on a Mike Vrabel and win 10 games, and have it not amount to anything. Like I'd rather shoot for the stars. And if we miss, we miss. That's okay. We no longer like removing Pete Carroll from our head coaching spot was, it was super sad, but it also like liberated us it to some extent because it's tough to fire Pete Carroll because he was such an he was such a crucial part to Seattle culture. He won us our first Super Bowl, got us to our second. And so like he had such a long leash. But like when you hire a new coach now, like he's not coaching. Pete Carroll coached for 14 years. That he will not have that same leash. Like if we hire Ben Johnson and after year 3 things aren't working out, we on the search for a new one. Like it's not that big of a deal. Coaches come and go every year. Like let's shoot for the stars. Maybe we hire Ben Johnson and he's Matt LaFleur, or he's Kyle Shanahan, or Mike McDaniel. Like maybe that happens, or maybe he's Arthur Smith. But I'm willing to take the chance. And so yeah, if not Ben Johnson, my other 2 are Frank Smith, the Dolphins offensive coordinator. The problem there is he doesn't call the plays. Mike McDaniel calls the plays. So like, I don't necessarily know how involved he was in that offense. Granted, like he's in the meetings with them. Like he knows the schemes. He knows the pre-snap motions. He knows the route. Like he knows everything about that offense, probably inside and out, so he can implement that. And I'm sure he has ideas of his own that he wants to bring. So like the Dolphins offense is just so dynamic that I'm always down to get a piece of that. And like the same thing with Brian Callahan, like he didn't call the plays. Zach Taylor called them, but he was still very much involved in that offensive play calling team. So, and then third would be Bobby Slowick. I think for him, a lot of people are talking about like him and Adam Peters in San Francisco overlapped. Like they're also very cool. So he could go to the Commanders too. Like, hey, they can't have both of them. If it's between Ben Johnson and Slowick, they can't hire both. So I think he could go there as well. He went with D'Amico to San Francisco. I mean to Houston, became his offensive coordinator. He's only been play calling for a year, but he turned that offense from literally one of the worst offenses in the league, took a rookie quarterback and turned him into one of the most safe with the ball, does not throw turnovers, dynamic, efficient offenses in the NFL. And so, Geno, why can't you do that with Geno Smith? Like it's I can very much see it. So if we hire one of Frank Smith, Bobby Slowick, or Ben Johnson being one for me, then I'll be happy. I don't want Vrabel. I'm sorry. I know he was great for you guys. I don't want him. I don't want Dan Quinn. I don't want Patrick Graham, the Raiders DC. I'm okay. I wanted an offensive minded head coach because you bring in a defensive minded head coach, you bring in Patrick Graham, he's gonna bring in an offensive coordinator. If that offensive coordinator is good, he's getting poached, and then we're on we're on the search for a new offensive coordinator. So Shane Waldron already got poached. He's the Bears OC now. So like we already don't have an OC. So like I just think like if we're gonna hire a coach, he has to be the one calling the plays and masterminding the offense. Because if not, we're gonna be looking for a new one in a couple of years anyway. Um,
Hey man, so
but so
no
yeah.
no Mike McDonald, man, at all?
Oh, I
McDonald?
didn't even. Okay, so I didn't mention Mike McDonald, and I would be very, very happy if we hired him. The thing is, there's some stupid rule in the NFL that like if you don't like request an interview or like do something within like 3 days of the season ending, then you can't interview like a certain coach until their season's over. And like we still had Pete Carroll as our head coach before 3 days after the season that deadline passed. So we can't talk to Mike McDonald until the Ravens season ends, which might be like mid-February. So like we might not want to wait. But I'll be very happy with Mike McDonald. He's also a defensive guy though. So
I
like
know, yeah.
if it was between Ben Johnson and Mike McDonald, I would want Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
If it was between Bobby Slow and Mike McDonald, I think that gets a little bit more for me. But I would still probably take the offensive guy just because that's the way the league is turned nowadays. So um yeah, but I think there's a lot of good options for us. Like none of my top options have been hired. So like I'm very happy with what we have left between us and the Commanders. Like, hey,
They got the
you
number
know,
2 pick, man. That's
I get it, I
that's
do, but they're the Commanders.
yeah, and
Like,
they
hey,
got
RG3 was the number
weapons.
2 pick. RG3 was the number 2 pick, and hey, what happened there?
Yeah, but
So
you
I
know how it
think
goes. So come on, you know how it
I
goes.
get it. I 100% get it. But if I was a head coach and I had to choose between Drake May and the Commanders, or going to Seattle, I would choose going to Seattle. I'll be
I go.
honest. And I'm not a Drake May guy, but hey, we'll see what Ben Johnson wants to do. Hopefully he's the Seahawks head coach, but if not, I can't wait to, blow out the Commanders and, shit talk them. And so what that brings us to our conference championship games. Chiefs, Ravens, 49ers, Lions. I'll let you take it first. Chiefs, Ravens, talk to me. Who you got winning?
Chiefs, Ravens, man. Oh gosh. I have the Ravens winning this game. I said earlier, not many times I'm gonna bet against Mahomes.
Wait, you have who?
Uh,
Wait, who? Who?
I have the Ravens winning this game.
It fucking ends on Sunday, Khalil. It's not going on any longer. He's not fucking going to the Super Bowl again. It's not happening.
Why are you so like why
I'm
why
not
are you
even
like
anti
this?
Mahomes, but he's just
You
not
could
doing
have
it
fooled
again. I'm
me. Like why are
sorry.
you
I'm
why are
sorry.
you
I've been saying all season they're not the same team. I refuse to believe it. No, he's
that
not
was
doing it again.
that was crazy. It ends. It ends. Um no, I love Mahomes. I think he's great. It's hard for me to bet against Mahomes, pick against Mahomes, but I mean I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. He's probably my favorite player in the NFL. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. I think it's going to be a back and forth in a way, a chess match on both sides of the football because you got a lot of great coordinators, you got a lot of great play callers, you have a lot of great player matchups. So it's going to be a lot that way. You're going to have McDonald and Reed. You're going to have Munkin and Spags, Jackson, Holmes. You're going to have the trenches. I say Jackson Mahomes. Jackson versus Mahomes. Uh, that's crazy. You're gonna have Jackson versus Mahomes, Lamar versus Mahomes. I just say Lamar. I think it's gonna be a special matchup in a lot of ways. But I'd like to see the Chiefs get the run game going a little bit. I don't know if they can spread it out the same way, especially against this Ravens defense. I don't think the Buffalo Bills defense is fine, right? But I don't think that it's the Ravens defense. So I think it's gonna be maybe a little bit more of a few hurdles for the Chiefs to get through that way. And I think Mahomes, honestly, at the end of the day, is going to have to be special to get past this Ravens team. Because they're so dynamic on both sides of the football. As we talked about it earlier, they have special players all around, a lot of all-pro talent type of guys. But can he can they win on the outside? Can they take advantage of a banged up, Ravens secondary, whether it be Humphrey or something like that? Can they get the run game going a little bit? Can they be healthy? On their end, I think Joe Thuney might be a little banged up himself. So how are they going to navigate, those hurdles? It's interesting to see how the Ravens approach the defensive side. I think those tackles over in Kansas City are a little bit, suspect that way. So how can they generate pressure? We've seen in the past pressure Mahomes typically never ends well for the other team. So how can they generate pressures without exactly traditionally blitzing that way? And we saw them give C.J. Stroud fits. And of course, Mahomes is miles ahead of C.J. Stroud, especially mentally when it comes to just playing in the NFL. So I can't wait to see just that matchup with the Mahomes against that that defense and that blitz attack. And then, can the run game get going for the Ravens too? I think it's going to be pretty pivotal against this Chiefs team. QB runs with Lamar is it kind of opened them up against Houston Texans, and I think it's going to open up, especially going up against a Kansas City team. So we're going to have to see that get going. Spags is a phenomenal play caller in his own right, especially with dialing up blitzes himself. But his defensive line is going to have to be pretty stacked. They're going to have to be pretty. They're gonna have to be pretty consistent and holding themselves up in the run game, especially too, because when it comes to blitzing against that Ravens team, you don't want to put yourself in a bad position that way. So we'll have to see what that looks like. But also just trying to find different ways to put pressure on Lamar because we've seen what he looks like when he has a lot of time, back there in the pocket, being able to create with his legs, whether it be actually running the football, tucking it away, or exposing the defense, using his legs, passing down the field too. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. There's a lot of different, ways to look at it, but I do have the Ravens over the Kansas City Chiefs.
And we are 2 for 2 on this episode, brother. So if I go down, you going down with me. I listen, man, Lamar Jackson is the chosen one. He will be the one to put an end to this little Mahomes era we've got going on here. And I'm far from a Mahomes hater, and I know that is like not evident in this current point in time. But I promise you, I acknowledge greatness. He's insanely good. Hey, I also want some parity. Let's get some different Super Bowl champions here. Okay, let's make it interesting. So I'm gonna go ahead and say the Ravens win. I said I'll never pick against Mahomes again. If he wins this one, I promise you there will never be another time we come up here and talk about Chiefs games that I don't pick the Chiefs.
Same.
But I'm picking the Ravens. They gave up the Chiefs gave up 182 rushing yards to the Bills. Now imagine what Lamar Jackson's now imagine what Lamar Jackson's gonna do, man. I think the Ravens have had the better and more efficient offense for the majority of the season. They have the better defense. They are the better team, I think. The Chiefs do have the better QB, and a lot of times that can be all that matters. But I just don't think that in this matchup that will be what decides it for them. We saw the Ravens struggle in the first half last game, and then they literally scored whenever they wanted. 4 straight possessions after half, getting points. They've been pretty dominant all season when Lamar has played. I think they'll give the Chiefs offense problems. They are the best defense in the NFL and have been for them, I want to say, the entire season. And so I said it last week. I've been saying all year that this is not the same Chiefs team and that they can't just do what they did last for the past 5-6 years to get to the chip. And I truly do believe that. And so I think this is the game. And I know I said this last week, but this is actually the game that, ends the Chiefs season and ends the little Patrick Mahomes every year Super Bowl thing. And so yeah, I'm not even want to talk too more about it because when I'm wrong, it's going to be a lot to backtrack. But I'm taking the Ravens to advance to the Super Bowl. And yeah, boom. Whew. When he wins, if Mahomes wins, that's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be
It's
tough.
gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
Seriously, I can't stress enough how just defensively how fun of a game this is gonna be. Just because you got probably two of the best play callers on the defensive end going up against each other, and then two of the 3, 4 best quarterbacks in the league going against each other. So how do those defensive coordinators, game plan, strategize against those two QBs? So it's just It's gonna be great. I can't wait to watch.
Can't wait. Hopefully, it's a game of the year. Hopefully, it lives up to the hype. Last but not least, the NFC Championship game, we have 49ers, Lions, the second and third ranked offenses in the NFL. The Lions actually have what I want to say. I was just looking it up. At home, obviously, this is in San Francisco. So on the road, the Lions are the best run defense in the NFL by a pretty significant margin. Like over the second best is New England, and it's only by 0.5 yards. But other than that, like the next best defense after those two is Chicago at 87.1. The Detroit Lions only give up 82.2 rushing yards on the road. And obviously, CMC was a massive part of their win last season against Green Bay, and he's a massive part of their success all season. But, the Lions are pretty well equipped to stop the run, and they have been all year. They're the second best total run defense in the NFL, not taking into account home games, road games, just total on the season, total body of work, the second best run defense in the NFL. Granted, the 49ers are the third best. So, and they like to get things going with Jameer and David Montgomery, but both teams like to get their running backs involved through the air. So, I think we will see a pretty good matchup here. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it can be pretty similar to the game script of Packers 49ers, and that maybe the Lions get out to an early lead, and the 49ers kind of have to look deep within and storm back. But I just think the overall talent will be too much for the Lions to overcome. And I think the team of destiny, the dream season, the Dan Campbell kneecaps gets ended here. And I think we have a Ravens 49ers Super Bowl, Christmas Day rematch. And hey, just a spoiler, I think we see the same result in that matchup. But as for this matchup, I have the 49ers winning this one and advancing to yet another Super Bowl in the Kyle Shanahan era.
Yeah. I would have to agree with you. I also have the 49ers winning this game. So we picked the same here, for this matchup. Man, I think it's going to be a good matchup too, though. I'm not sure it's going to be a blowout. I think the Lions match up very well with the 49ers up front, especially with the Lions being able to establish the run game. Offensively, they are going back to Jahmyr Gibbs. He, again, is a special talent, a special player. They need to get him the ball more, especially going up against a defense like this that is so fast, so physical, so athletic. So him being able to be a game changer against a defense like this, they're going to need that juice. They're going to need his playmaking. And then also being able to establish the run game, they're going to need that just so they can get Goff in a comfortable situation. I think he'll be comfortable for the most part just because that offensive line, 49ers pass rush hasn't been the same this season, of course. So if they can find different ways to pressure him, that'll help out a lot. But I think Goff will need to be the same as he was last week, being able to, drive throws, put pressure on the defense, make some of those perfect throws that he did against the Buccaneers. So I think that's a game plan for the Lions up front. Defensively, it's kind of where I'm worried about them. Again, I said the same thing last week. But I still think this is a different beast when you look at the 49ers. I'm worried about the defense, and they're going to need to. You talked about the run game, especially being on the road. I think they're going to have to pick what to stop when it comes to that 49ers offense. And I think they're going to have to, try to slip the run game. Of course, that comes with a lot of risk and maybe even some consequences. Trying to stop the run game and maybe selling out on it at least here and there. But I just think if you let them run the ball, it's going to open up everything else in that offense. So if you can put the pressure on Brock Purdy, who struggled last week, of course, in weather conditions, the weather's probably going to be fine this weekend. But if you can make it difficult for him, give him different looks, make it hard for him, I think you give yourself the best chance. And hopefully you can make some plays off of that pressure you can put on him and him making some mistakes like he almost did against the Packers last week. Again, I think the Lions match up well, but I think the 49ers are the better team on both sides of the ball. I think Brock Purdy will mostly be fine in this game, actually. I think he'll respond well. I think he'll be in a comfortable position. I think the weather will be fine. I think he'll have to control the ball, and I think he'll get some of that rust off that we saw last week, and I think he'll be good there too. This defense has struggled here some. They just haven't been the same. But if they can find ways to make plays, you can see that of Fred Warner, you can see that out of a Drake Greenlaw, even hopefully see some Bosa make some plays. I think those stars will come up big where they need them to, and hopefully Kyle Shanahan can get them together. But I have the 49ers over the Lions.
Boom. Like I said, we are 2 for 2. So if I go down, you're going down with me, brother. But hopefully we're both right and we see a Ravens 49ers Super Bowl. I think that's probably been the two best teams for the majority of the season. Both one seeds, both got the bye. I think that's what everything has been kind of leading towards. Unless Patrick Mahomes has other things in mind. But um we shall see. So we shall be back next week to go over the games we just talked about and talk about the Super Bowl matchup. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Run It Up podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the pod on YouTube, leave a like, a comment, tell your friends about it, leave a 5-star rating review anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you listen to on the pod right now. Do what is the good thing to do for podcasts. Like if you're listening on YouTube, go leave a comment. If you're listening on, like a podcast app, leave a review. Follow us on Twitter at Run It Up Pod. Follow us on TikTok at the Run It Up Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Najee Adams _ Khalil on Twitter at Belil44 and Justice on Twitter at JReed _ Everything will be in the description.
You say it like that every week.
Because I never remember. Like it always feels like, maybe.
Underscore every week.
Got to keep you on your toes. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. I hope you guys have a litty day, a litty night, a litty life. And just like we do on every episode of this podcast, make sure y'all go run it up.